All right, the masses are demanding another story. And I have no choice but to acquiesce and say it. Nice word, acquiesce, and say the story. See, sometimes the right words come into my mind. Okay. There was once this is a Jewish story. Once upon a time, there was a great rabbi. Let's call him Rabbi Avraham. And Rabbi Avraham, he was the advisor to the king. Doesn't say which country this was. He was the advisor to the king. And this Rabbi Avraham, he was a Talmud scholar and a very generous person, nice person, but he had a special love for being a mohel, doing circumcision. It's a very holy thing. It's called, in Judaism, it's called the Brit. It's a covenant between God. And he was very good at and he would, with great self-sacrifice, he would this, and he wouldn't, of course, wouldn't take any money. There's nothing wrong with taking money for being, you're not supposed to ask for money, but taking money is that. And he would even help. Anyway, so, but he had a big enemy, and his enemy was the bishop. The bishop was also an advisor to the king, and the bishop hated this Rabbi Avraham. He hated him, first of all, because he was a Jew, and he hated him also because the king liked Rabbi Avraham more than he liked him, and he used to go and ask him advice all the time. Anyway, so he makes a plan. What's his plan? He goes to a town, and he goes to a town which is like 2-3 hours away, and he gets some people over there, and he says to them, listen, in a few, tomorrow or whatever, tomorrow, the next day, is going to come someone, and he's going to have a note. And the note is going to say, did you do what I told you? That person, he's going to have an envelope. He'll give the envelope, open it up. He'll come riding in on a horse. Did you do what I told you? When you see a person like this, is throw him into the furnace. In order to do that, you have to prepare a furnace. Prepare a furnace. It's really hot. Take him and throw him into the furnace. Okay, this is the order of the king. Of course, the bishop made it up, but they didn't even have to make it up. The bishop is, holy. Everybody is afraid of burning in hell, so they do what the bishop says. The bishop goes back to Rabbi Avraham, and he says to him, listen, I have a special order for the king, but it's a secret. Don't tell anyone. Take this letter and deliver it to the people in such and such a town. They'll be waiting for the letter. In the letter, it says, did you do what I told you? Gives them the letter, and early the next morning, Rabbi Avram wakes up, gets on his horse, and rides full speed, or gets in his carriage, whatever, and he drives full speed to this place. He's going there. Little does he know that the people are waiting over there to throw him into the furnace as soon as he shows them. So he's on the way. 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. Okay, I left a little detail up. Not too late, not too late. Left a little detail up. What's the detail? The detail is everything I said, but the bishop hates Rabbi Avram so much. Oh, this is in the beginning of the story. He hates Rabbi Avram so much that he has someone sneak into Rabbi Avram's room and change his account books. That instead of saying that he earned 10,000 golden pieces, he writes that he earned 100,000 golden pieces. But the taxes that he gave was only on 10,000. Not 100,000. And then the bishop goes to the king, as I left out. He goes to the king and tells him that Rabbi Avram is cheating you. He makes 100,000 and he's only giving taxes on 10,000. And if you don't believe me, here, look at his account book. It was taken from his room. The account book says that he made 100,000. And the king says, whoa, 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 look at that. Oh. So now we start the story from where I started. So the bishop says, let me take care of it. And he goes to the town and tells the people when he comes with the letter. He gives Abraham the letter, and Abraham is now speeding toward his death to this town to give him the letter. As he's speeding down the road, all of a sudden he sees an old Jew standing in the middle of the road. He says, "Excuse me, could you move aside?" He says, "No, we need you. We need you. I have a son. He has to be circumcised, and we don't have a mohel. We don't have anyone to circumcise him. There was supposed to be someone that came, but he's not there. He's sick, whatever. Anyway, do you know anyone that's a mohel?" Oh, Abram hears this. He said, "Listen, I'm in a tremendous hurry, but a child that has to be circumcised and there's no one to do it. It's a big commandment to do it on the 8th day, by the way. You can do it later, but the big commandment is to do it on the 8th day." He said, "Okay, but I'm not remaining here. I'm not staying. I'll circumcise the child and I'll leave." He said, "Okay, good, whatever, please." "Oh, it's a big thing. Not only that, you're the 10th man. We need a 10th man for a minion to do it." So Abraham comes and he checks the child and he prepares everything. He always has his little knife with him. And he prepares the child and everything is all prepared. He gets ready and he circumcises the child and it's great happiness and everyone was rejoicing. And then he bandages it up, the wound, and he says, "Okay, now I got to go." He says, "No, you're the 10th man. Just stay for 1 minute for the meal." So it's a commandment to make the meal. I mean, listen, you have to be, if you come a little bit late, it's going to be, okay, the fact is I could come a little bit late, but I don't like to do that. I like to do things as soon as possible. Okay, you're right. It is a sudat mitzvah. It's a commandment to make this meal. I'll sit. So he sits, make a lachaim, mix a lachaim. Another lachaim. Okay, another song. Back though, then this was 200 years ago. They didn't have watches. They didn't have this. Anyway, he didn't have one. And so, say a word of Torah, says a word of Torah. All of a sudden, he looks at the watch. He looks at the clock. He looks at the sundial, and he says, "Oi, it's late. I'm late. I'm 2 hours late. 2 hours, 3 hours late." He runs out. Meanwhile, the bishop is very interested in seeing Avram burn, or at least smelling a little bit of the smoke that comes from his cremated body. So he can't hold himself back. He sees that Rabbi Avram got on his horse and he rode early in the morning, and it only takes, let's say, 1 hour to get there. So he waits for an hour. He must have already gotten there. And he gets on his horse and he starts riding. The bishop also starts riding. And the bishop comes to the town and everyone is waiting. And he sees the people there and he said, "Did you do what I told you?" And the people there were sort of simple. He was supposed to bring a note, but "Did you do what I told you?" This is him. They grabbed onto this. "What are you doing?" They grabbed onto him and they threw him into the furnace. An hour later, 2 hours later, whatever, Abraham comes to the town and the people are milling around and he says, "Hello, I have an envelope." Someone comes over, he takes the envelope and opens it up. "Have you done what I told you?" What did we do?" "We burned the bishop." He said, "What? You burned the bishop? What's that got to do with my letter?" And they told him the whole thing. What happened? That the bishop came and he said, "Whoever has this, brings this message of, did you do what I say? We should." He said it was the order of the king. So they realized there was a big miracle that the bishop was killed. He said, "I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what happened." He goes back and he tells the king. The king hears about it, that the bishop was burned. "What, you burned the bishop? You did?" He said, "Your Majesty, why did you order that I should be burned?" He said, "Because you cheated on your taxes." "I cheated on my taxes?" He said, "Yeah, tell me, how much money do you earn every year? How much do you earn every year?" He said, "I earn," let me give 1 second. "How much do you earn every year?" He said, "Oh, how much do I earn every year? I earn 2,000. 2,000. Why did you write 100,000? He said, "Let me see the ledger. Look, you can see here, see somebody added on another zero. They changed where the comma is. See, look." "Oh yeah," the king says, "Why, I didn't notice that." Says, "But it changed it from 10,000. Why did you say you only earn 2,000? So because that's the amount of money that I give to charity every year. The money I give to charity, that money is really mine. That's really mine. That's what I really earned." And that's mine. That's eternal. That's always mine. The rest that I earned, the other 8,000, is not really mine. Here you see, I almost got burned to death. But the 2,000 that I gave to charity, that's what saved me from the plans of this evil person. So we see that Rabbi Avram was saved because of the charity that he gave. And the charity that you give, that's your real possessions. But also because he was careful and, excited about the commandment of performing a bris. Shows us that we have to be charitable and excited in Judaism, and that God will do the rest. Have a good day with Mashiach now. Thank you very much for listening.